Hey Jason, how are you, mate?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing absolutely fantastic. Now that I get the chance to have a chat with you, I'm pretty damn
Oh,
stoked.
fantastic.
So,
Oh, cool, man. Me too. That's really cool.
I was first made aware of you personally through your last act, Let Live, where I saw you play with Enter Shikari, and you basically surfed on anything that existed on stage. And I was like, hey, this is the kind of guy that I like. Um, so
Yeah.
when that ended, I was a bit bummed, but then all of a sudden, I start seeing you hanging out with my mate Matt Malpass and Mr. Feldman,
Yeah.
and that
Yeah.
how did this come about? Well, first let's take it back. How did Fever 333 come about?
Well, really, man, that's all kind of one and the same right there. So what it was I was I was kind of in an interim period right between like Let Live and I was having a baby. So my wife was pregnant and I wasn't touring. I was home, kind of trying to take care of her and stuff at the house. So I linked up with a family friend and I was working, trying to basically hustle and become part of this vegan cookie company. So I was out like selling these vegan cookies to stores and trying to get accounts and this, that, and the other. And I was up in Travis Barker's area, and he had kind of heard of us from, we'd played festivals with Blink before, but his goddaughter actually was, I guess, a fan of Let Live and went home and showed it. Like, we had met when I was selling these cookies, and she went and showed Travis some videos and told him about, what I did, and he came back and dude bought me like a E3 live shot and a smoothie, and I knew shit was cracking. I knew it was on after that. So he was like, he knew we had a mutual friend through John Feldman. So John Feldman called me up after that and was like, yo, Trav and I want to meet up, talk music, which we did. And then we talked about, on the Super Bowl Sunday of last year, we talked about what we would like to see and hear in music now. And the terms we were using were things like, PLC punk rock, like punk rock, played by people of color, bands like Bad Brains and Fishbone and the like. So from that, we talked about getting together and writing some songs, see how it went. We did that. We got together, wrote a couple songs immediately, and the vibe was there instantly. And it's just kind of been all go from that moment. And then when I wanted to kind of put this whole thing together and publicly sort of create our first demonstration, I thought of Eric and Stevis. They're a couple of my favorite people, performers and musicians and people that I know through this game of music. So I hit them up, and they graciously agreed to be a part of this whole thing with me and kind of run the run with me and do these demonstrations and tour. And here we are today in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, in a parking lot. Talking about it.
Thanks to some cookies.
Yeah, thanks to some good-ass cookies. They were good. That was some good-ass cookies, so yeah.
That's it. And Cookie Monster tells you that cookies are only sometimes food now. Hey, I mean, if you weren't selling cookies, you wouldn't be
right.
talking to me.
I know, right? Shit is crazy.
So, as you said, like, you had an idea of what you wanted to create sound-wise. I suppose with the punk rock feel to it, like the anger, like how did you kind of balance between, like, having the anger of the punk rock, but also the urgency of, hey, this is also important. I'm not just angry for the sake of it.
Yeah. I mean, that was the foot that I led with, was making sure that I distilled this idea and this message that I was creating a space for people to have a conversation, offering a space where I, offered some representation, whether that be myself or my partners in this kind of collective. Really making sure that that every time that we do anything, the integral contingent pieces of the three C's, which are community, charity, and change, were ostensible, were highlighted, and just as important as the music. Making damn sure that that was understood was kind of like the only way it was going to work in my mind. Was making sure that I made it very clear why we were making these songs and why I was saying the things I was saying them and the way that I was saying them. So yeah, man, it was always just a contingent piece to this whole puzzle.
I mean, there's always a meaning behind music and the artistry within, but this time around for you, it seems like there's a lot more meaning behind it. Is it easy for you to just let it all fall out onto the page, or is there a certain way that you want to kind of get those words out? If we can kind of continue on with the last question.
Yeah, man. I've always been a pretty outspoken person. I've been pretty transparent. I've spent a lot of my life just trying to be honest, even when it's uncomfortable. So really just sort of playing on that and being honest with myself about what I feel and what I think, and again, making sure that it's not a way. I don't want to foreclose anyone's ability to be a part of this or have a conversation with me. So I guess balancing that was the only real balancing act I did. But other than that, it was just yeah, man, it was just saying the shit that I thought needed to be said, and always trying to make sure it was like artistic or clever in some way. Was really kind of the only thing I ever think about when I'm doing this shit.
And it's come through with the tracks on the EP. It's it hits you straight away, and then you're constantly thinking while at the same time banging your head and kicking walls. It's a very it's an emotional roller coaster, really, listening to the EP in a good way. I suppose the way that I describe your band would be this generation's Rage Against the Machine, in the sense that you guys have a purpose. You're not just here making music because you want to make music. You're here because, to be honest, the world is completely fucked, and no one else seems to be trying to make a change. So why not you? And you just happen to have a great soundtrack behind it.
Yeah, thank you, bro. I appreciate that.
Just don't turn too much into Zach, though. We kind of want you still here in the scene.
For sure. I'll try to stick around a little longer.
So with the messages within the songs and the EP is titled "Made in America." When it comes to touring with the band, bringing it to different countries, would say a trip to Australia or Europe, how would you kind of portray your shows in that sense, or is that more of a performance than a demonstration?
No, it'd certainly still be a demonstration. Essentially, these demonstrations are just areas and forums for people to demonstrate the things that they feel need to be elucidated, highlighted, and spoken about. So for us, we're really, these demonstrations, what we do is we try to facilitate an area, a safe space for people to have the conversation, for people to speak to others of like minds, but also perhaps others with opposing thoughts and views, and really, again, I guess really sort of employ this essence of freedom where people can have these discussions and we can advance ourselves and we can focus on what we need, what we want change in ourselves, which will then in turn begin to move outward locally, and then hopefully beyond that we can find these things that we want to change in ourselves. Perhaps maybe others want the same thing, and then we can find a common denominator that helps shift the tide in all areas. And I think that again, using that language demonstration was a very deliberate thing that I did in order to, set the tone and set the stage for every time that we find ourselves somewhere with the music or even without the music. We really go there in order to create an activation for people to, again, catalyze that change that they want to see with themselves or with those around them.
It's excuse me. It's just very impressive. And I know you are not doing this for the kudos whatsoever, but it's impressive to see that within the music industry there's still that, and the collaborativeness, is that a word? Yeah, we'll say it is. Yeah, when you collaborate with people, here we go. It's just how Matt was mentioning that you guys are already working on new material. How do you choose who you're going to be working with? Like, because if you're working with Feldman, you have a plethora of people to kind of pick from. Is there a kind of a dream person that you'd love to get on the next Fever song? I mean, you already had Travis Barker, but
yeah. I mean, I really love to find artists that are currently inspiring. You know, because there's obviously my favorites from like all time, which would obviously be a dream. You know, but there are more current artists too that I think have a voice and have a unique perspective and a unique place, niche position, and all of the things that are happening right now in the world. So, you know, one person I've been really, I've been on him for a minute, but I recently, just the way that he carries himself too, he's very like unbridled and unabashed when he speaks on things that he thinks are important, is Vince Staples. And I actually, I wouldn't mind like maybe linking up with him and sort of, you know, again, honing him on the hip-hop aspect of this whole project. And I just think he's dope. Overall, I think he's dope.
Yeah, I've only just recently been hearing of Vince, but it's kind of it's a fresh sound in what was kind of becoming a repetitive hip hop scene. So I think you adding him into the scene, into the Fever would be awesome. Excuse me again. So I thought I needed to sneeze. My bad. So, in the news recently, there's been different kinds of demonstrations, or a certain somebody breaking into TMZ and talking about slavery. Would what I'm trying to put forward to you is, would the next demonstration be the Fever breaking into TMZ and kind of telling Kanye to shut up?
Of course, and let me, you know, I can't even front. Like I was a huge Kanye fan growing up, and I think that musically he's done some incredible things. And even culturally, I think he has, and which is why it makes it so disheartening to hear him speak the way he does now. So much negligence, almost ignorantly, as if he doesn't know what he's saying has the effect, or what the words he's using, what they mean to people like himself and others around the world. It's really shocking that he hasn't taken these things into consideration. So, I think it's totally wrong. I think it's super negligent. I think it's a gross abuse of his position and power, and I really fucking hope that, you know, people understand that he's tripping, and I hope that he soon enough understands that he's tripping too, because that shit is just not the business. He's fully out of pocket with those statements.
He definitely is, and it's a scary world, and it's just popped into my head now, but as the interview is winding up, with all the scariness that's going on and all the negativity, what's one thing that gets you out of bed every day, that just gets you excited? What's your happy?
My son. Yeah, my son is like he's the future, man. You know what I'm saying? That he's the reason for all of this, and he has offered me an ability to see, you know, far beyond my own timeline, and also he's shown me like the beautiful nature of humans again, and he's really shown me, you know, how we can shape each other and how we can help each other, and showing me that just, you know, we're not as fucked as everyone tries to say that we are. You know, my son is absolutely the thing that does that for me, for sure.
It's amazing. I have a 7-year-old daughter myself, and just they don't try to improve your life, they just do, because they're just they want to be the best, and like nothing's gotten into them, because right now we're all they've got, and all we do is encourage them. So, you know, they just show us a whole new world. Now, that's a beautiful answer, and
true, man.
A perfect way to end this interview. Man, I could talk to you for like a whole David Letterman hour special, because there's so many questions I have.
Yeah,
so
let's do it.
hurry up with the next EP, and so I can hurry up and chew your ear off again about more stuff. But thank you so much for having a chat with me, brother. Dude. And take care.
Man, I appreciate it, for real.
And we'll be chatting to you soon.
Hell yeah. Thank you, brother.
See you later, man. Bye.